Hare Krishna. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Balaram Katha program 2020. Next Monday we're going to celebrate Balaram Purnima, the appearance day of Lord Balaram. So, and we want to make it more of a culture that also the days before that are being rather used as a inspiration and absorption in this particular personality which is about to appear. Might be this month also Krishna, later on Srimati Radharani. We had also this year Lord Narasimhadev, Ramachandra, Nityananda, Gauranga, all of those. So it's very auspicious to glorify the Lord in His qualities and pastimes. And today I would like to focus on two aspects of the Lord. Hare Krishna. One is how Lord Balaram is the carrier of the creative's energy, and how he is also the source of all avatars. We know Lord Balaram has many important functions, like any form of the Lord, like also Srimati Radharani has very important functions within the spiritual world, within the pastimes of Krishna, but also in relationship to us, to the jivas, the individual souls. So I'd like to start with quoting a verse from the Sri Upanishad, which is describing how Krishna as the absolute truth is fully complete. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Mudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. And Srila Prabhupada is translating this verse with the emphasis on completeness. And he's translating as follows: the personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. So this is quite a big sentence. But many times, if you have noticed, the word complete and perfect is being mentioned, the word Purnam. Purnam means perfect and complete. And it points to that Krishna is, as God and also as his creations, is ever expanding. It's not ending at any point. It's always growing. There's no limit. He's also called limitless. We will hear later, Advaitam, Achyutam, Anatam, Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Anantarupam, that he's beginningless, endless in his form, one like the one without the second. And although he becomes so many, we have many avatars. Balaram is considered to be the first expansion of Lord Krishna, and from him many, many other thousands of expansions are coming. And also the material worlds are created as complete units, as this translation is mentioning. And although so many emanations come from the Supreme Whole, it is not being diminished in any way. It remains complete. So this is outside of our experience in the material world. The more one unit, emanates or gives away from itself, the more it diminishes. Maybe you can compare it, anyway the human body is something, particularly the female body who can give birth. If you compare that, since Krishna is manifesting like new forms, so the female body is able to bring forth forms, right? So, but with each process of pregnancy and birth giving and so on, also some part of this body is diminished, the energy, the substance, the capacity. So there's no perfect completeness. So, but in Krishna, no matter how many forms he brings forth and how many universes he manifests, there's no getting lesser in him. Rather the opposite. He's always becoming more. And that's one of his inconceivable aspects. That's the spiritual energy, ever expanding, never decreasing. Whereas the material energy is said to be having a limit and is subject to a cycle of being manifest and unmanifest. And in between, there's some little, period of existence. And therefore, it is called illusion, because the existence is just an idea actually. Because in every second, something has already changed, we don't even perceive it on a cellular level. So therefore it's said it has no reality, it's asat. And the sat, the permanent thing, is that which does not change, which is not influenced by time. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is particularly emphasizing on that verse. He's translating it different, or better, it's a translation of the same verse from Baladeva Vidyabhushana's commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Therefore, it might appear to those who are a bit more, have a, a finer sense for the philosophy, a bit strange. It sounds a bit impersonalist-like, but it's not, as we will then hear. Baladeva Vidyabhushana Swami is saying, the unmanifest Brahman is perfect. The manifested Brahman is perfect. From the unmanifest Brahman appears the manifest Brahman as various avatars. When the manifested forms emerge from the unmanifest Brahman remains. So that's also, again, a lot of repetition of the same words, but the point is, there's a state of non-manifestation and manifestation, and no matter how much gets manifest from the so-called unmanifest, this unmanifest Brahman, the spiritual substance, is not diminished. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining the perfect avatari, that's the one from whom the avatars come, that's Krishna. He's the avatari, and from him the perfect avatars are coming. And the perfect avatars are complete, endowed with all energies. From the perfect avatari appears the perfect avatars for the purpose of spreading the pastimes of the Lord. When the perfect avatari accepts a perfect form for accomplishing certain pastimes, he is still present, but in a covered form. In no circumstance is there a diminution of the perfection of the Supreme Lord. So he particularly focuses on Krishna's avatars, whereas in Srila Prabhupada's commentary we also have included the universes and also the jivas as emanations that come from him. And remarkable here is also that Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, he is still present but in a covered form. That means in each form, as we now see Krishna and Balaram, we perceive them as two, right? One next to the other. But actually, philosophically, the point is, he exists within Krishna. Balaram is an expansion, also manifested from Krishna, and exists within his energy, though externally appearing as a second personality. And this form is also completely perfect, and it appears a separate personality, although it is not really. It's Krishna in a different shape. We can imagine, like we have at home a drawer with many different outfits, and perhaps similarly, Krishna has available unlimited, ananta rupam, so many unlimited forms he can access if he wants to enjoy pastimes. So that's one of the purposes. Why are there so many forms? Because Krishna himself desires to enjoy himself in many ways, because he has these energies, but also there's a relationship with the jivas, and they also have particular ways how they relish Krishna. It says the avatars have, Srila Rupa Goswami is given an analysis of the hierarchy of avatars, how they are to be understood, and it said Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. Swayam means original, and Bhagavan is the Supreme Lord, and it's that form, the two-handed Krishna, as we see here also on the picture. And this form is not dependent on any other form. That's the meaning of Swayam Rupa. Krishna has no origin, he's beginningless, and he's not depending on any form. That's inconceivable for the mind, no, always fascinating. And then it said, from there come the Tat Ekatma Rupas. Tat Ekatma Rupa means partial expansion, sometimes they're also called complete expansions. And there have two categories, and one is Vilas, and Vilas means simply pastime, incarnation, and they slightly differ in appearance. And technically, Balaram is actually a Vilas expansion of Krishna, because he is white. Otherwise, he's said to be exactly the same as Krishna. And those forms who are exactly like Krishna are called Prakash. Like he manifested himself 16,107 times, because he is already one, so plus then 16,108, and to marry all these princesses. And they were exactly the same Krishna. And also, we hear in the Rasa dance, every gopi has one form of Krishna with her in the dance. So these are like different forms. And then besides the Vilas is the Swamsha. That's a form that differs in appearance, like also Lord Narayan, the four-handed form. It's also called Vilas. But also has different powers. Not each incarnation, not each form of the Lord has the same opulences. We also hear from the Nectar of Devotion, Narayan has 60 qualities, Krishna has 64 qualities. And so the different Vishnu Tattvas, they have different capacities also, according to how Krishna needs them or wants to manifest them. And the Brahma Samhita is also describing, we have in the text 33, where is it? No, it's not 33. Dvaita Majuda Manadam Ananta Rupam. It's 33. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Atyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Dulabam Adulabam Atma Bhakta Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur explains that the word achyuta means that though myriads, also billions and trillions of avatars emanate from him as subjective portions and millions of jivas as separated spiritual particles, still he remains intact as the undivided whole of fullest perfection. So we can understand also one meaning of the word name Achyuta. The infallible is also that he's inexhaustible, no matter how much he manifests. We are compared to the sun rays. Krishna is the sun, and the jivas, also living entities, are like little particles that manifest from him. And the different statements in the Shastras, in the Krishna book, we find that the jivas, Prabhupada mentions how they manifest from the Brahmana fulsions, because it fits also the metaphor, how Krishna is the sun, we are the sun rays. And there are different statements from Shastra where also the Paramatma feature is compared to the sun, and the Jivas are the emanations. And the Brahma Samhita itself specifically or very literally states how actually Mahavishnu is the creator of thousands of souls. And we can hear shortly, because this is one part of Lord Balaram's creative capacity. We'll hear soon first of the, we now hear already of the Jivas, but we first heard like how he creates the abodes, like spiritual worlds and material worlds are being manifested by Lord Balaram. He's, equipped with this Tzit Shakti. In text 11 of the Brahma Samhita is said, Sahasra Shirsha Purusha, Sahasraksha Sahasrapat, Sahasra Bahur Vishvatma, Sahasramsha Sahasrasu. And the translation is, the Lord of the mundane world, Mahavishnu, possesses thousands of heads, eyes, hands. He is the source of thousands of avatars in his thousands of subjective portions. He is the creator of thousands of individual souls. In a short purport, Mahavishnu, the object of worship of the hymns of all the Vedas, is possessed of an infinity of senses and potencies, and he is the prime avatara Purusha, the source of all avatars. And here the word-by-word translation says, Sahasra Suhu, the creator of thousands of individual souls. And I think Sri Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur is very conscious of the use of words, and he says he creates thousands of souls. He does not embody necessarily the souls, but they manifest from him in this Tatashta sphere. That is one of the philosophical perspectives one can take. And let's look at who is Mahavishnu. Where is he coming from? He is coming from the second actually quadruple expansion. When Krishna manifests into Balaram, then Balaram is manifesting Lord Narayan, and from him come the first quadruple expansion, Vasudeva, Shankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. And then, like sometimes it's mentioned that actually from the Shankarshan of the first quadruple form, Lord Narayan is manifested. Yeah, this way, Narayan is manifested, and from him the second quadruple form, a second time, Vasudeva, Shankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha, four-armed Vishnu forms, are being manifested. And from this Shankarshan then comes Mahavishnu. So they're all, of course, Vishnu Tattva, but they actually emanate from Lord Balaram, who emanates from Krishna. So ultimately, Krishna is, of course, the source. Ishvara Parama Krishna, he's the supreme Isha. From him all the avatars come. But the Vishnu Tattva is particularly actually entrusted, let's call it like this, to Lord Balaram. And it has immense creative power, because this is the form of God, of Krishna, who manifests the material universes. He transforms the Brahman into Mahatattva, and from there we know there's a gradual process how the material energies manifest, and simply by the glance of Mahavishnu. He glances material energy and sends out again many energies. The time energy is there, Kala Shakti, Rama Devi, which is considered Yoga Maya, and the Jivas themselves are being also in the glance sent into the material energy. And even from the glance, there's said a dim reflection, a dim light of a ring of light. And it's said that this is Shambhu, the Sadashiva. The first Shiva is manifested from the glance of Mahavishnu. Therefore also Shiva has a very intimate and close relationship to Lord Shankarshan, a Vishnu form, because that's his origin. He meditates upon Lord Shankarshan. So which is ultimately Lord Balaram. And so this is part of his Srishti Leela, where he creates the material spheres. But we hear also that the spiritual manifestation is something that the power for that rests on Lord Baladeva. And we say consciously the spiritual manifestation because it's not a creation. What do you think? What is the distinction between the creation and the manifestation? Yes, the manifestations are considered eternal. They don't have a beginning in time, whereas the creation is in the realm of time and space. It starts at some point and ceases to exist, but the core energy remains. But the spiritual world is not created at some point. It's eternally there and manifests more and more of its features. And we hear a bit in the beginning of the Brahma Samhita of that spiritual world, which is appearing to be a bit more of a metaphor, but it is like an illustration that is to be taken as literal. The super excellent station of Krishna, which is known as Gokula, has thousands of petals and a corolla like that of a lotus sprouted from a part of his infinitary aspect, the whirl of the leaves being the actual abode of Krishna. So in the shloka, in the second shloka of Brahma Samhita, it is described how actually Goloka Vrindavan is to be imagined like a lotus flower. And in the middle, what's the English term? I think the corolla, like the whorl. Yeah, the middle. At least I don't know, so I confuse these terms in English. Der Blütenkorb of Deutsch. So there, like Radha and Krishna are residing in a throne, and they're full of bliss. And the petals around, they are considered to be also the how to say, the places where the gopis reside, different realms and spheres. So it's a powerful image, and we can understand there everything is full of happiness, full of bliss. There's no fault, no mistake, no limitation. There's no cessation, because there's no time factor, and that's why it's called Vaikuntha, a place of fearlessness, or a place without fear, because there's nothing to lose in a bad way. So everything is full of opulence. Everything is enjoyable. Everything is pleasant. The jivas have spiritual senses, and everything they see there, they hear there, they touch, what they smell, everything is something very pleasant and causes ecstatic feelings. Also, that Krishna's appearance is an intoxicating beverage for the eyes. It is described when the jivas see Krishna, or like also Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha, they feel intoxicated from the sight. I said Lord Narayan has a complexion blue like the sky, and Krishna is more with violet, darkish blue like the atasi flower, or sometimes said monsoon cloud also. And also it said Krishna's skin smells on most exquisite flowers. He smells extremely pleasant, and his voice is extremely pleasant as well. Everything is pleasant. And not just pleasant in the spiritual world, it's really causing the jivas ecstatic emotions toward Krishna. The ground are like Chintamani stones, described. They are transcendental stones. They are desire trees, kalparikshas, that provide you just with everything you want and need. And there's also no satiation. Whenever we consume or enjoy something in the material world, at some point it's enough, and it turns actually in the opposite. You eat at the beginning and it's tasty and you enjoy it, but the more you eat, the more your body fills. And at some point it might get very unpleasant. And also some tastes, if you have them repeatedly, okay, you get satiated and tired of it. But in the spiritual world, it's not like that. There's no satiation. And it's also no need for eating. They don't need to maintain their bodies. But this is part of the relishment, that you can experience the enjoyment without, so to speak, the after effects that we have in the material world. Yes. So the lotus is there, and it said this region of Goloka is surrounded by another region which is called Shvetadvip, and here it said, the whirl of that transcendent lotus is the realm wherein dwells Krishna. It is a hexagonal figure also ein Achteck. The abode of the indwelling. I think that's some water from this morning. Predominating, the abode of the indwelling predominated and predominating aspect of the Absolute. Like a diamond, the central supporting figure of self-luminous Krishna stands as the transcendental source of all potencies. The holy name, consisting of 18 transcendental letters, is manifested as a hexagonal figure with sixfold divisions. Or actually, it's more description of that. Yeah, but later it said there is a Shvetadvip surrounding this area, like means there is a square surrounding that lotus, and each side of the square is one form of Vishnu is presiding over it. Vasudev, Shankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, the first quadruple expansion, they reside on one of the sides, and is explained because of their influence. This whole sphere expands and manifests. So it's again Lord Balaram we have here, like by his creative power, he also manifests the spiritual world and expands it. That's his influence. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is writing also how Lord Balaram, in the form of Vishnu, has a particular relationship with the jivas. We mentioned in the beginning that there are many forms of the Lord, and he enjoys them out of his purposes. He wants to perform pastimes, but they don't depend only on his desire. They also are related to how the jivas actually have a particular taste or relishment toward the Lord, and according to that, different avatars are being manifested. And also sometimes not relishment means already a liberated soul or like a Krishna conscious soul that desires the Lord and wants to relish. But there are also those jivas who not on that level, and for them also he takes forms to inspire them to get attracted. Yeah. And we have in the Krishna Samhita from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's described in chapter 3, text 4, that Krishna is inconceivably powerful and merciful. He is ardently engaged in the welfare of the living entities who have been conditioned by Maya due to misuse of their independence. When the conditioned souls receive various forms according to their nature, the Supreme Lord Krishna, by his inconceivable potency, agrees to accompany them by incarnating and enjoying pastimes with them. When the living entities accept the position of fish, the Lord accepts his fish incarnation Matsya. So it's interesting, we find in each species actually Krishna appears also for the jiva, so that, a fish can relate to another fish. So if some very powerful, glorious fish comes, they can look to it if it would be another species. Matsya is without danda. I couldn't figure the exact meaning of that word, but it's used here. I think it makes sense when we continue reading. Or do you know that? No. When the living entities gradually accept the position of Vajradanda, then the Lord incarnates as Kurma, which is the tortoise incarnation. When Vajradanda gradually becomes Merudanda, the Lord incarnates as Varaha, the boar form. So we see there's kind of an evolutionary process even when within the Das avatars, the regular incarnations, they relate to also certain species of life. We hardly hear that. I was also intrigued when I was reading that. When the living entities accept the combined position of human and animal, the Lord accepts his incarnation of Nrsimha. So we have these mythical figures, also in Greek mythology and so on, and also in the Vedas we actually find statements how like there are species or living forms that combine animalistic and human features. And when the living entities are short, he appears as Vamana. When the living entities are uncivilized, he becomes Parashuram, this warrior who slaughters ultimately the kingly class. And when they are civilized, he appears as Ramachandra. When the living entities possess the wealth of practical knowledge, Lord Krishna himself appears. And when the living entities develop the tendency for argument, the Lord appears as Buddha. And when they are atheistic, the Lord comes as Kalki. These are well-known facts, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is writing. So this is an interesting way to contemplate also on why is Krishna taking forms, of course out of himself, his desire, but also relating to a particular state of consciousness of the jivas. So Lord Balaram is actually supplying these forms because from him the Vishnu Tattva comes, and most of these, only Krishna is Krishna Tattva, all of these forms are Vishnu Tattva, which are mentioned now. So the Mahavishnu, as the Brahma Samhita describes, is the source actually of all those incarnations. Actually, avatar is the better word because incarnation means becoming flesh, and Krishna is not doing so. So avatar is actually the correct term. The explanation on the science of Krishna that is presented in this book may be applied to his various incarnations. The conclusion is that Krishna is the root cause and seed of all incarnations. He is eternally enjoying pastimes with the living entities as the Supersoul. The Supersoul reciprocates according to the mood and realization a living entity acquires while traveling on the path of fruitive activities. But Krishna does not personally appear until spiritual attachment arises in the hearts of the living entities. Therefore, all other incarnations appear from the Supersoul, of whom Krishna is the original seed. So here we have also again an interesting distinction, how the Vishnu feature is also reciprocating, so let's call it to the lower stages of spiritual consciousness, where there's not much of a particular inclination. He's also rather neutral. The Supersoul accompanies the jivas, fulfills desires. What's the shloka again from the Upadrashtanumantacha bharta bhakta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapyokto dehismin purusha paraha. That the Supersoul is the Upadrashtan Anumanta, the overseer and permitter, and resides within the heart and is accompanying the living entity. And he's rather neutral, and if he allows even the forgetfulness of Krishna, and he inspires if a jiva wants again to remember Krishna. So, and he had said the Supersoul reciprocates according to the mood and realization of a living entity, while it is traveling the path of fruitive activities. So, and when it's more purified, only then, when it's pure enough, then Krishna himself is entering the heart and is giving, or personally appears. But Krishna does not personally appear until spiritual attachment arises in the hearts of the living entities. So, having said that, let's also now focus a bit more concretely on Lord Baladeva. He is playing the role of an older brother, which is another interesting aspect, as Krishna has his Svayamrupa, his original form, which is that of a approximately 16 to 18-year-old youth. That's his original form. But he enjoys also to become a baby form and gradually grow into that youth again. And also Lord Balaram does that. So they actually seem to be changeable, although not. They manifest just this particular feature and then enjoy growing up again with various exchanges. And as described here, Sri Baladeva is decorated with service to the Lord and is the transcendental reservoir of all living entities. As also Vishnu is, he is taking care practically of all the jivas, particularly those in the material world. He is their seventh son. That relates to the parents of, here the names Yasha and Kirti are mentioned for Vasudeva and Devaki. Sri Baladeva is the transcendental reservoir of all living entities, and he appeared in the womb of Devaki, who represents the heart filled with knowledge. But out of fear of his maternal uncle Kamsa, he went to his home in Raj. He was transferred to the fateful abode of Raj and entered the firmly devoted heart of Rohini. News of Devaki's miscarriage was spread at this time. So here was again this mystic arrangement, because they knew, okay, Kamsa is going to kill all the offspring, and there apparently it appeared like a miscarriage, but Balaram was transferred from one heart to another. This is, in general, we find that with also Krishna himself, with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with the parents, and the word Diksha is used, that actually the male devotee might be Vasudev, might it be Nanda Maharaj, or might be Jagannath Mishra, like they receive Krishna in their hearts and then transfer from their pure transcendental mind to their wife's mind. There's no intercourse or anything, they just initiate the woman into the pregnancy, so to speak, and then this pastime of pregnancy is happening. So yeah, this is something short how like Balaram appeared, and of course there are many pastimes, how they were growing up, and I would like to narrate as far as I remember now, because I forgot my electronic text as far as I just noticed. When they were already grown, there was the story when how Krishna killed Narakasura. This is the Asura who kidnapped the 16,000 princesses and locked them in a cave and polluted them, and Krishna killed them. And of course all the demons, usually they are friends also, or allies. And there was one ally which is Dvivida, a gorilla. He's actually related to what's in Ram Leela, this is Sugriva, the monkey. He's related to him, but it's said by bad association, he rather took the side of demons, and he was wanted to avenge the death of Narakasura, and it came to happen that he met Balaram. Balaram was sporting in the woods, enjoying with his female companions, drinking Varuni, and Dvivida was a very nasty gorilla. Some descriptions sound rather kind of funny, like a monkey, like being mischievous, and but it got very serious. He also kidnapped people, threw them into caves, locked them there. He raped women. He killed. He did. Then there were the other things where he, of course, was just being very nasty in behavior. Also showing his intimate parts to everyone, like passing urine and stool on sacred places. And so this was the behavior of this gorilla. And actually the gorilla, the Dvivida, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining, he represents lust, the desires, or lust in general. Because if a person is very surrendered to lust, or the more a person surrenders to lust, the more shameless a person becomes, the more selfish and destructive. Because then one becomes simply exploitative. And so he was seeing Lord Balaram enjoying with his female companions, Varuni, and he came there, and first he made strange sounds in the woods, and he showed his teeth in funny ways. And first the girls, they thought, ha ha ha, some funny monkey, and they didn't take it so seriously. And he showed his butt, and he showed his parts, and still that was kind of okay, but then he started also getting closer, and then also I think he was urinating in front of them. You see sometimes when you see some YouTube videos or something, they film some monkeys, and that's what they do. They just come around, like it appears first they're like kind of a bit like this, how to say, playful creatures, but they're really nasty, and they just pee on you, or like they bite or steal something, and sometimes they can be sweet, but depends on the type of monkey. There are different monkeys. You might remember if you go also to India, this type of monkeys, they're not so sweet. They're rather very aggressive, or like this, how you say in English, pavian, this, with the longish kind of mouth and the red butt, They also wouldn't like to be involved in a fight with such monkey. Even if they're relatively small, they appear like to be only muscle, and teeth. And they come at you there. Yeah, it's better to have some healthy respect and fear from these creatures. So Dravida gorilla was like getting very nasty. And at some point, Lord Balaram decided, okay, it was not so easy to move within the fight. Balaram was first kind of tolerating quite a lot, also insults, because like the Dravida gorilla was calling him all kinds of names and stuff, and then threw stones at him. And he pulled his dhoti down and everything. And he cracked his pot with Varuni, and even then Lord Balaram was first like, okay, because he was intoxicated, it was described, he was enjoying himself, thinking, yeah, not such a big deal apparently. But then it got a bit too much at some point, also how the gorilla was treating the girls. And Lord Balaram decided to fight him. And first he took his club and threw it at gorilla, but the gorilla was quite expert to evade the attack. But then he took up the fight, and first thing he did, the gorilla, he pulled out a tree and cracked it or hit it on Balaram's head, or at least tried to, but Balaram deflected with his club. And then they started fighting. And it happened so that Balaram smashed one tree after the other. The gorilla was continuing with the trees, and it went so far that no forest was left. They consumed the whole forest. All the trees were used up. So then the gorilla would throw rocks at Balaram. And Balaram with his club would deflect them. And also Srila Prabhupada is commenting there, you see, like human beings take pleasure in sporting like that, like baseball and stuff. This is said originates also, of course, from Krishna. Like he was playing baseball, so to speak, with the Dravida gorilla. And then at some point the gorilla got also very aggressive. He came and he got hit by Lord Balaram's club on the head, and usually the demons die quite away, but he seemed to be unaffected, even blood streamed from his face, and it's even said it was beautifying him like a volcano, with lava, often this language is used. And then it continued, but at some point Lord Balaram just used one smash with his fist on the collarbone of the gorilla, and he cracked his heart apparently, and then vomiting blood, he fell unconscious, being dead. So that was the end of Dravida gorilla. And this is said how Krishna, and of course also Balaram as the guru maybe, and in different incarnations, of course they kill also our anarthas, demons. And we can see usually the demons, they die rather brutally. It's not a very gentle passing away while being asleep in bed. It's rather coming with quite a blow, quite strong. And perhaps I was thinking also purification. If you take the demon representing an anartha, we can always see many of the demons are manifest as animals. Like the gorilla, Keshi demon is a horse, which represents pride and the false and the desire to be guru. Good Putana is a witch; she is the false guru representing. But the ass demon, who represents the hard, dull, fruitive worker who works a lot for nothing, the materialist, and the bull demon, and so on, Aristasura, who was also brutally killed. Balaram took him. Krishna took him on the horns, threw him down, cracked one of his horns, and beat as long as no life was anymore within the bull. And then he got blamed. You killed the bull. This was our dharma, although the bull was a great demon. Also, the Keshi demon got all his teeth pushed out, and he died horribly while Krishna's arm was in his throat, and it felt to him like molten iron, and the arm expanded. So, and painfully, the Keshi demon, the horse, gave up his body. So we can understand that of the purification we might undergo might not be pleasant. So sometimes when we, in our life, experience a struggle which we can identify as some purification, or where we feel now some weeds are being pulled or something is very challenging, that this is how it must be in order to take effect, because an animal does not respond to reason. Animals don't. And our animalistic nature also does not respond so much to reason. So it needs something, sometimes a bit of a more crude force to make us change or let go of something. Of course, we may pray Lord Balaram to give us the strength and ability to go through the process of being purified of our anarthas. But yes, by glorifying, by remembering Balaram like that, one already gets benefit of being purified. Each Krishna Lila, Balaram Lila brings with it a blessing. So I didn't read so much what was the blessing of that story, but there's certainly some blessing as well. Hare Krishna. Is there any comment or question from your side? If yes, please take the microphone there, because then we have an online audience. Or is there someone online saying something? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I just wanted to first of all thank you very much. I really appreciate the class. Many nice points. I was just thinking about the final point you made about the anarthas and purification. That can be a bit scary. So we should already, so in a sense we expect the blows in our spiritual life.
Yeah.
Also you said about how Krishna doesn't appear until spiritual attachment develops, and sometimes we are told to pray to Krishna to appear in our heart. So I was just trying to put the two together. So actually we're praying for this spiritual attachment, in a way, to so that Krishna can.
Yeah, it's that Krishna personally, in a way, if you understand, that's again, it's interesting. We usually do that, like similar, like on the picture as I pointed, we see two entities and usually tend to see separate. But also the super soul, in a way, is as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in his purport to the Ishopanishad verse, it's the same Krishna in the core, but kind of covered. So the super soul, in a sense, is also Krishna, but it's a different feature which responds to our consciousness. And the more pure we get, the more the super soul manifests into Krishna. So in a sense, he is already there, because he's not different from the super soul. And it is about, like, of course, there are many items we say the Krishna. That's why the Katha is so important. If we more and more absorb in hearing and studying about the forms of the Lord, the more our mind can engage and feel attracted to. The more we hear how, like, Krishna is doing and how he is, and the more my mind can connect with that, and then I can desire Krishna consciously. Because the japa is important and then the naam, but if the naam is not accompanied with consciousness of the pastimes, of the forms, of the qualities, then the meditation will not get so strong and desire will not arise so quickly. As at least my understanding, also my experience, the more I read that, and when I then chant, I chant a different quality. Because in the beginning it's also important, simply chant consciously, right? See?
And I really appreciate also how you said that like Balaram, we look at them, they seem like two, as you mentioned again, no? But like Balaram is within Krishna, in a way, you said. And I was just thinking about how, and you were reading about, from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, how Krishna appears as a fish and a boar and all these avatars. And I was just thinking how Krishna is kind, my God, because in a sense it's all Krishna, all these avatars, all this, he manifests into so many, and so even if you are short, if you are an animal, if you're anything.
Vamana, yeah.
That was really nice, really inspiring description. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Bhaknu Thakur ki jai. All right. Thank you very much. Shri Baladeva Prabhu ki jai.